Part 2, The Keys of the Kingdom, Chapter 7, Beyond Mortal Boundaries. There is a correction. These blessed ones will take longer, perhaps, to reach the great fulfilling than others. Yet they too will make it in time, as that little grubby mortal self wears itself out and humbles itself in a devotion that sings in an ever-increasing you within the purified heart. And now there is this bit of information I am instructed to share, as this divine road of holiness is opened wide. In Hebrews, the 11th chapter and the 5th verse, it states, "By faith Enoch was translated, that he should not see death, and was not found, because Prime Creator translated him. For before the translation he had this testimony, that he pleased Prime Creator." As one accepts these higher laws of promise and lays hold of them as the best gifts, he begins to live according to their fulfilling by faith. And as he continues, he will reach the point where Prime Creator will bear witness to his soul that Prime Creator is pleased with him. This is not that self-righteous feeling of an inferior person being pleased with himself. This is the divine, holy touch of Prime Creator's hand upon him, as the sacred glory of this unspeakable blessing is released deep into the soul of the individual with a completeness that is so perfect and so divine, there can be no more doubting or evil or too much delay. As one gathers this last great promise in the joy of his own final quickening, the assurance within increases, and love and praise and ecstasy fills his entire soul. This sacred witness from Prime Creator is most necessary for each individual to receive, and only Prime Creator can give it. And it is fulfilled by the fulfilling of the law, that divine law of love and devotion, and increasing joyous praise and gratitude. Daily, that inner assurance will increase as one evolves into the fullness of the promise, and he, at some unexpected moment, yet in a complete state of awareness, will be wrapped in the power and the glory of his Maker, and will be caught up to dwell together. Or, as stated before, one may request the privilege of returning to earth, that he might be permitted to serve here, where the need is so great, and the laborers so few, and the time so short. Whatever your request, or whatever the desire or the desires of your heart, they will be fulfilled according to the fullness of your own sanctified hope. And whenever your fulfillment is accomplished and your calling and election is made sure or is completed, there will be those before you who will be there to welcome you as the hosts of heaven rejoice over your achievement. For it will be a blessing to the entire world. Prime Creator bless you, great and noble ones, and may your graduation be fulfilled speedily. Love speed ahead. And all the sons of Prime Creator shouted, sons and daughters, shouted for joy, and the rising stars sang together over the anticipated wonder of the promise contained in the laying of the foundations of the earth. We were therein promised that we were to possess this beautiful planet as our future abode or schoolroom of progress. It was a world in that we would learn to handle tangible things and receive, pardon, and receive denser bodies than we had ever known, and would be given the opportunity to be tested and tried in all things, and so prove ourselves worthy or unworthy of greater honors and opportunities. As we, the spirit children of our Almighty Mother, Father, God, became clothed in flesh with our memories of the past veiled, God gave out many promises that drifted out across space and time as snatches of melody rippling over the ocean of eternity. And sometimes, even now, our souls catch some haunting refrain, some hope forgotten, some special promise pending, and we stand lost in silent, expectant, waiting for we know not what. And later it was those of great faith, those divinely inspired ones, those ancient, holy prophets of the chosen sons who put those divine promises into words under Prime Creator's minute direction. And so all those great and mighty promises given forth before ever earth began became the heritage of man. These eternal promises are even now man's to reject or ignore, or to accept and to prove. And the following words of truth came drifting across the ages to be heard by those of open, questing minds, and to be recorded thus. Behold, when ye shall rend the veil of unbelief, which doeth cause you to remain in your awful state of wickedness and hardness of heart, and blindness of mind, then shall the great and marvelous things that have been hid up from the foundation of the world from you be made manifest. What were those great and marvelous things that were hid up from the foundation of the world because of our awful state of wickedness, our hardness of heart, and our blindness of mind? Those great and marvelous things were the great and mighty promises of Prime Creator, as they were either buried or submerged between the words and the passages of Scripture. And because of the hardness of men's hearts and the blindness of their minds, and because of the gross wickedness of unbelief, those sacred promises have lain buried under the dust of ancient verbiage and ignored. It is true that Prime Creator hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and Prime Creator hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. 1 Corinthians 1, chapter 1, verse 27. And it was I, the most weak, the most foolish, and the most lowly of all his children and her children. Mother, Father, it takes two. Whom Prime Creator chose to catch the wondrous melodies contained within those hidden promises. At first, I would only lift my head momentarily from the deep sleep of the centuries, as my intellect would catch a glorious phrase of some divine refrain that those around me seemed to hear not. It was as I lifted my head to listen and open my ears to hear and to ponder on words that none seemed to see, in all their searching, that Prime Creator increased my hearing and my power to see. And gradually those sacred, almost silent melodies became a celestial chorus of divine, magnificent, breathtaking glory. Prime Creator's promises began to stand out in letters of living flame as they sang of the greatness of the Almighty and of Prime Creator's desire to exalt their children above the drabness of mortality. Those promises increased and magnified and became a symphony, revealing fully the great and marvelous things that had been hid up from the foundation of the world, because of the great wickedness of unbelief, the hardness of our hearts, and the orthodox blindness of our minds. As each promise became apparent, it was revealed to be a part of a great symphony of eternal glory held out for the contemplation and acceptance of man. These promises were not of mortality or of earth or of death. These promises marked a path of utter glory leading back into the divine, holy presence of Prime Creator, with death and sorrow overcome, with eternal triumph, the reward and Prime Creator's welcoming arms, waiting to enfold any who would rend that veil of unbelief and follow through. And when the path is fully revealed and the separated melodies are gathered into the great chorus of eternal glory, they are one. It is composed of the divine promises of Almighty Prime Creator, gathered into a blinding, exalting triumph, the triumph of each individual overcomer, who will only begin to take hold of the promises and live them within the celestial concert of this almighty rendition of Prime Creator's word is the glory of each man and woman's overcoming as he and she rends the veil of unbelief and accepts the promises of the great and marvelous things that have been hid up from the foundation of the world. As each phrase or portion of the whole divine symphony was revealed, first as separate promises, they were finally gathered into my heart as the divine musical composition of pure perfection. And I was commanded to write the divine truths of those eternal promises of Prime Creator into these books for all the world to read and understand. None of these truths are new, nor was I the one to reveal them. They have been with men from before the foundations of the world, yet they have been hidden from the eyes of man's understanding because of the blindness of the minds of men, and because of the hardness of their hearts, and because of the state of their awful wickedness of unbelief. And now these great and marvelous truths have at last been brought out of their obscurity, with a giant magnifying lens being placed over them, so that all men might be left without excuse. Each holy sacred promise given by Prime Creator in the ages past has been made clear and apparent, as Prime Creator's finger has pointed out each hidden, heretofore unthought of, secret pledge of Prime Creator. And each of the almost unspeakable promises contained in these records is backed by Prime Creator herself. They are Prime Creator's promises. It is time for man to let the hardness of his heart be melted through the cultivation of love, as he develops the desire and the faith to fulfill each holy sacred promise given by Prime Creator. And there is no possible way in that an individual can so please Prime Creator as to begin to desire his precious promises to be fulfilled. It is only in the power of such appreciation that any gift can be fully received and the joy of its bestowal fulfilled. It is as one ceases to be a blind follower of the blind and begins to go to Prime Creator for the confirmation of Prime Creator's promises, that one's mind will be opened to comprehend the great and marvelous truths that were hidden up from the eyes of the millions who have plodded their weary mortal ways to the grave. This dreary road could have been bypassed at any time in the past ages if man had only rent the veil of unbelief and laid hold of the promises. These almighty promises are to assist one in fulfilling every divine suggestion, that he might become perfect, and that he might again enter the kingdom of heaven, wherein all else is added, and the fact that death can be overcome, along with sin and sorrow and affliction, is made plain and apparent. Henceforth all men will be left without excuse, for the path is made so clear, even a fool need not err therein. As each individual catches the divine refrain contained within each single promise, he is opening his soul to comprehend. And as he begins to interpret the wonders of these promises and apply them in his own life, he will be dissolved and will become that he seeks to interpret. Evolve in love or be dissolved by love. So, promised Prime Creator through Prime Creator's chosen writer of the Odes of Solomon, yes, seek to interpret the divine love of Prime Creator, and you will be dissolved, and you will become that love. Yes, become this love, and your mortal form will become translated into its higher spiritual functioning as you evolve from the man kingdom into the God kingdom. Live the laws, and you will know of their power. Live the promises, and you will become all that is promised. And now the final key of fulfilling I am instructed to unfold. Prime Creator has proclaimed, "My words cannot return unto me void or unfulfilled." Prime Creator released Prime Creator's holy sacred promises and sent them forth to fill time and space with their eternal power of almighty blessing. Yet because of the hardness of men's hearts and the blindness of their minds, which has caused them to remain in their awful state of wickedness and unbelief, the glory and the power of Prime Creator's words and promises remained closed. Yet as man opens his eyes to see and his ears to hear, his mind will also be opened so that he will be able to comprehend and to enter the realms of eternal light. And since Prime Creator's words cannot possibly return unto Prime Creator void or unfulfilled, all that is required is for any individual who catches the meaning of even one of those holy sacred promises, or all of them for that matter, to hold them forth for Prime Creator's fulfilling. Such a one will rend the veil of unbelief through his own desire to prove or fulfill the promise his own heart lays hold of. And as the individual holds a promise, or promises forth for Prime Creator to fulfill, they have to be fulfilled. They cannot possibly be held forth to Prime Creator and be ignored by Prime Creator, since Prime Creator's words cannot be returned to Prime Creator void or unfulfilled. It is time that man begins to understand that it is only man himself who can lay hold of those promises and return them to Prime Creator. It is man who must return Prime Creator's words unto Prime Creator for fulfillment. Any individual who lays hold of any promise or promises and returns them to Prime Creator as he kneels before Prime Creator's throne or before the altar within himself, Prime Creator is bound to return such request unto him openly or out into the open in tangible manifestation or fulfilled. No promise of Prime Creator can be rejected or left unaccomplished if man will yet exercises faith even in the slightest degree. All that is required is for man to carry the desired promise of his yearning heart to that inner altar of Prime Creator and hold it forth without wavering or doubting in his heart. As any individual accepts of Prime Creator's promises through such faith and desire, Prime Creator is bound. If ye do as I say, then am I bound. Yet if ye do not as I say, then ye have no promise. Yes, lay hold of the promises of Almighty Prime Creator. Through the faith of your own desiring, and Prime Creator will be required to fulfill Prime Creator's promises, for they cannot return unto Prime Creator unfulfilled or void. And only man can return these promises to Prime Creator. And in this requesting, man has the right to demand of Prime Creator the acknowledgement and the fulfilling of Prime Creator's word, and Prime Creator must answer. There is no loophole. There is no flaw in Prime Creator's plan. There is no excuse for Prime Creator to fail, and no excuse whatsoever for man to go on, locked behind the great black veil of unbelief. Prime Creator cannot fail. Prime Creator will not fail. And it is time for man to awaken to the fullness of his own possibilities and responsibilities and requirements as he lays hold of the best gifts, the very best, and lives according to the promises, and by faith holds them forth for Prime Creator's fulfilling. Prime Creator will not be mocked, neither will Prime Creator mock Prime Creator's children. Prime Creator will not mock Prime Creator's children with unattainable promises. Every promise ever given holds locked within it the germ or seed of its own fulfillment. Rend the veil of unbelief and behold the glorified vision of Prime Creator's power made manifest as all things are perfected unto you. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be one with them. Yet the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake, that which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Revelations chapter 21, verses 7 through 9. Perfect love casteth out all fear. Yet there are churches and organizations and groups that have only been able to imprison and hold the minds of their followers in subjection through fear. Fear of being deceived, fear of their own inadequacy to judge intelligently, fear of evil, fear of every ray of light, as they are trained to abide in the darkness and trust wholly in the arm of flesh. Fear is a deadly thing. It is without love. It is without understanding. It is without faith. And those whose minds have been blighted and warped and sealed by fear do not even trust Prime Creator to have the power to answer their prayers or to be capable of revealing Prime Creator's own great truths to them. Fear, according to the foregoing scripture, is the first of the deadly sins. Unbelief is the second. Murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and liars follow. To travel the road of glory into the realms of light, and to prove the teachings of Almighty Prime Creator, and to receive the glorious fulfillment of those almost unspeakable promises, one must rend that veil of fear, of unbelief, of darkness, and step forth in faith. One must have the power to believe, for that is the first requisite to gaining knowledge and enlightenment and power. The higher realm belongs to those who can lay claim to it through faith and courage, bravery and love, and a joy of increasing ecstasy as they lay hold of eternal light, and it becomes subject unto them. To be cautious is good. To be fearful is damnation. Trust in Prime Creator with all your heart, and lean not to your own understanding. O Prime Creator, I have trusted in Thee. I will trust in Thee forever. I will not put my trust in the arm of flesh, for I know that cursed is he that putteth his trust in the arm of flesh. Yea, cursed is he that putteth his trust in man, or maketh flesh his arm. And this will complete Chapter 7, The Keys of the Kingdom, Beyond Mortal Boundary.